Good evening and welcome back to Nice Drop Report. We are fresh off the 6-1 battering of the Phoenix. I've called this episode Everywhere They Go, Phoenix Get Battered, because that song or that chant is has been ringing in my head all week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ringing. It was kind of just everywhere, wasn't it? On Saturday, Matt and I were obviously at the game doing the live potty. It was just, we were trying to do the recording. And it's funny because watching it back, it doesn't actually sound that loud. The microphones are very good directionally, but being in there,
it was great.
It was really good. We see us all stop and watch because we're like, surely no one can hear what we're saying. But
that's right.
It was everywhere they go, Phoenix get battered. So it was a huge derby victory in the end. We were just talking before we came on air here. I don't think anybody had 6-1 for the victory, but we had a lot of like 4-0s, 5-0s. Everyone before the derby was so positive that it would end up that way, huh?
Yeah. Although I'm going to claim it's not factually true, but my daughter did clearly say Auckland by 5. If you can recall her holding up her big one blue streak.
I do.
That's clearly 5. Yeah,
it was clearly. Well, you called it. You were like, "It's clearly 5," and we were. I could just about hear some of what you were saying, but I definitely recall 5.
Yeah,
5-0.
I'm taking it anyway. I'm claiming it. So my daughter's the oracle.
It was it was a great day, Robbie. Like, it was a shame you couldn't have been there, of course, but you were there in video, but not there in person. It was. I mean, in New Zealand we talk about things really hot. I mean, you live over in Sydney, so you'd be used to it. But it was like a pressure cooker under that awning, in Lily World. We were in there for a few hours.
I remember the derby that I was over for. It captures the heat quite well. There's a lot of bodies, and when you throw in a bit of sun, it's but it just all adds to the vibe, and it was such a great atmosphere. I was really gutted I couldn't be there for that, but like it came across on TV, and I'm fully invested, so I couldn't help but be drawn to it. So shame I wasn't there, but I was there in spirit. My friends were there in the stands watching on, cheering in person on my behalf. So living vicariously through you guys and everyone else who went to the stadium. But no, it was a fantastic day, and a record crowd. It's, how good is it? How good is it to be a football fan at the moment in New Zealand?
It's incredible. It's like a fairy tale. Nick Becker came on at the beginning of the game, and I didn't quite pick it up, but it was 27,009, and I think when I watched it back, I heard it as 9009. Of course, the Auckland phone number for those old enough to remember the time before mobile. You're old enough to remember before mobile phones, Matthew. 09.
We used to have a
landline in Mount Albert.
Yeah. Where you from? The 09.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do remember just about.
But he was pumped. Nick Becker was pumped before the game, and I mean the potty was fantastic because we had all sorts of fans on. I mean the Wellington Phoenix fans were great value. I thought they were good value. So it felt like a real football match because you had two sides. Again, it kind of makes that difference to have away fans. And I mean, I guess it's a little bit different here that they're in the same bar, which is even nicer. Like there's not like an away. I heard there was like an away pub and a home pub before the game down in the city centre. But the funny thing was, everyone had their like timings. They'd be leaving the bars, and I just thought, wow, this is incredible. Like, they're you know what I mean, Matthew? Like 3:11, the away fans are there, like there'll be trouble. But not in Auckland. It was like, we're getting on the train now, and we saw the port arrive, in the march into the stadium, and that was quite a moment because it had been so electric in there anyway. And then we were like, we were pretty knackered by that stage, and we had my mate Jack on, so we sent him into the port. And it was great fun. It was a great day.
So then, did you guys hear about the whole blocking of the bus, the Wellington bus?
I don't know if did we know that at the time. I didn't see that until I saw it on the news. I think with Corica after the game.
I don't remember. No one actually came up to us and said it. I mean, we had quite a lot of people come through, and
have you seen the vision though? They do sort of surround it a bit. I mean, it's not like hugely hostile, but it seems like the bus driver didn't want to like push it though.
Yeah,
he couldn't really.
he could have Well, he could have pushed it on a little bit, I suppose. So call the bluff.
Yeah.
You're going to run in front of a bus,
get in the way, surely.
That's right.
I mean,
I mean, what do we think of that? In all honesty, like I thought because it wasn't hostile and you're not like attacking the bus or doing any of it. It's shithousery at its best, or what? No, someone in the office here today called it shitmanship, which I thought it's a very good term.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's just like it was a minor inconvenience, and by all accounts, the coach didn't really mind. The players on the bus didn't really mind. It was just like a very mildly annoying inconvenience. But I loved it. It was all part of it.
Absolutely, and maybe they'll block our bus when we arrive next time, and then eventually the authorities will sort this, and there'll be no one getting the bus. It'll be over.
Yeah. I don't.
Brown on, see what he reckons, because he was there. The Auckland mayor was there.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
There you go.
We almost got our roving reporter to. I think he kind of just glanced, didn't he? He kind of checked him and then kind of went, "Hang on a minute, I recognise that guy," but we didn't really know until afterwards. He kind of came and told us, didn't he? He says, "Oh, Wayne Brown was part of the."
Yeah, although Jack was buzzing on Derby Day. He was having a great time in many ways. So whether he may have just imagined, I don't know.
He's having the time of his life. Bringing the energy, that's for sure.
What were you talking about, Matt? Before I rudely interrupted you there, you were talking about something.
I was going to mention maybe about the bus. I mean, what was really awkward was when they asked the manager about, could it have made any difference? And I think it's really hard to sit there as a manager and get absolutely pumped 6-1 and say, well, yeah, I think it was all to do with the bus. It wasn't to do with the back four. It wasn't to do with the back four looked like they just met in the tunnel at the beginning of the game. It was like, hi.
A 15-minute delay, 2 hours before a game.
I mean, it looked like, hi, I'm Steve. I'm going to be playing with you at the centre back today. Oh, hi, Steve. Yeah, I'm Chris. Yeah, good to meet you. I look forward to playing at centre back with you. Yeah,
it was more that they just. And I was just watching the goals back before the potty to remind myself, and particularly the Moreno strike and then the Rogerson long range efforts. Just no pressing of the ball.
No,
in front of the box. Like it was like, wow, they've got an open shot from the box.
The worst thing you can do is allow it when the ball comes into the box. If you allow the opposition to touch the ball, and I read something the other day. If they can touch the ball something like 3 times in a row, then the chances of the ball is going to end up in the back of the net is pretty high. It's really, and you shouldn't, and nobody. I mean, you should be winning the first ball, of course, but you can't forgive the second, the third, and then the fourth.
Yeah,
it's awful.
Yeah, and that's that. Everyone I've heard from Wellington coach players, they all said that was their biggest downfall on the night. But then I do wonder. I think I may have heard a couple of Auckland players say that was something that they targeted. Particularly the either the corners or the crosses were really deep onto the keeper. Like normally
unusual ones. Yeah.
Rather than go cross it away from the keeper or keep it away from the keeper, they put it right on top of him, knowing that. Which is something I hadn't really noticed. That I didn't feel that Kelly Hield was very susceptible to any dramas, under the ball. But it seemed like they targeted him. They targeted that inside the 6 yard, put the ball on top, and it kind of becomes chaos. And then Auckland were really good at picking up that second ball, and it paid off. But something I noticed pretty early on. It was interesting tactic.
Yeah. It was almost an interesting start to the game as well, because I think we had a few Wellington fans. Of course, we had a few Wellington fans on the live show, and I think my consensus, and I think they agreed, was that Wellington should come out quite hard, quite quick. Try and really.
It was the only way they could win it. They were saying,
and it kind of was.
Well, they did have a good start. They had a decent start.
I mean, Pinnacle.
I thought first half hour was really solid.
Yeah, that guy got poleaxed at the beginning. Pinnacle put that challenge into the guy. I mean, that was pretty borderline. It was a high boot, and Wellington were in a pretty decent position. So I thought, I think this is what they're going to try and do. But then you're right. As soon as that first goal went in on the whatever it was, the 30th minute,
it was all over. It was all, and it was It was
Just
bizarre. I
imploded.
mean, obviously nothing to do with us, but funny enough, because we'd done the poddy and we were absolutely knackered, and then the beers started coming out. We didn't even go in. We were the last ones to leave Lilyworld. It was quite a kind of nice moment. It all just went real quiet. We just sat there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
It was so nice. It was great.
It was lovely. And we were just, and then we were like about 25 past. We were like, oh, should we go into the game? We went into the game.
Yeah.
Literally, as soon as we arrived, it just started raining goals.
Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, how good. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting to note on the YouTube chat, and keep the comments coming in, everybody. From Gergis, Albie and Josh, the two Knicks keepers, were practicing corner clearances in the pre-game. They must have somewhat seen it coming.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I kind of like reflect on the game. I mean, are Auckland really good, or are Wellington really bad?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the question. What do we think, or is it a bit of both at the moment?
That's a tricky one. That one, yeah. I always wonder when a team does very well. Are they just really good, and Wellington just can't, like anybody else, struggle to live with Auckland, or are Wellington that bad? I think it might be a bit of column A and a bit of column B. I think Auckland are on it, but Wellington were just Again, like the live show, everybody was coming to us saying 4-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, whatever. There was something that they, I didn't see. I didn't think I could see that. I thought it was going to be a 2-1 or 3-1, but it was clearly obviously something that people had seen, that they thought that Wellington were pretty average and Auckland were going to be too good.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a perfect storm. Like Auckland's in such good form and playing very solidly, whereas Wellington are. To Chiefy's defense, he hasn't had his best 11 for some time, and I don't think he started the season really with his best 11 available. So he's been trying to move the pieces around to find that best combination available. They haven't been in the best of form. Stylistically, I think they've got a few issues. Don't get me wrong, but you can see what they're trying to do, and even though they were down 3, 4, 5 goals, they were still trying to play. And I think it was the Melbourne City coach, Aurelio Vedmar, in one of his pre-game presses, because that's Wellington have got Melbourne City next tomorrow night, actually. He was saying he was impressed by how positive Wellington kept. So they never dropped their heads. They didn't sort of, they didn't go into their shells. They still kept playing. They were still fairly positive. And there were a couple of moments, but Auckland are just too strong at the moment. And I think Wellington's on... I could just about put the line through them for finals this year. If they start their run now, maybe, but they can't afford to lose too many more games from here on. But it's tough.
Yeah,
Go on, Matt.
I was going to say, they had that moment where they went, when they got one back when it went to 3-1, and they almost had a little bit of a moment there afterwards. I mean, I had to watch it. You have to watch it back, when you're watching it live in the stadium, you don't get too much of it. So, but when I watched the game back, they did have that little bit of moment. And when you go to them, I hate the old stats things, but there's a thing there that does show momentum. And Wellington did have a decent amount of momentum when they scored that 3-1. And I think we actually said it. We were actually standing together at the game what we did, and we were like, they've got that
3-2 now, and then it's a little bit dicey into the end.
And they were pushing it.
They might make a game of it.
Yeah, but then they just
they didn't know, did they? They just faded away. Yeah. Some great goals though. We were talking about the I talked about those two where they stood off, Moreno and Rogerson, 4 and 5, and both beautiful, strikes, But having so much time on the ball, you get time to hit it nice, don't you? I guess.
I mean, the ones at the end were pretty apt as well, weren't they? Because I mean, I think was it Randall and Rogerson? Yeah, they both pinged those in, but they seem to have quite a while to take a few touches and have a few looks up and find the corner. Well, you still got to put it in the corner. There were still really good goals. I think
still got to finish it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of them's won goal of the month, didn't it? I think was it Rogerson's. I think did that win?
Yeah, Rogerson's one is nominated for goal of the week, goal of the month. One of the two.
Must be of the month, mustn't it? It's got to be goal of the month. Oh, maybe you do have a goal of the week.
Might be a week. I think they do something every week.
Oh, I was going to say, surprised
of the month as well.
Yeah. I think they do it quite frequently here. That's why it's really hard for me to. In the UK, there's always goal of the month, wasn't it?
Yeah. Player of the day with the junior.
Mate, I'm telling you, the goals in the A League are that good. You got to do something every week.
Yeah, true. Actually, you're actually right in that. I've actually seen some of the efforts that my team back in England, and actually they don't really they pale in comparison compared to some of the ones in the A-League. So some of the ones that kind of get in through the back door in the UK are like, blimey, it's the bloke's arse and it's the bloke in the face, and he kind of like
Goal of the month.
He like swivels and kicks it into the roof of the net. It's like, yeah, he finished it well, but blimey, it's like pinball when it went in.
Surely Guillermo Mai got goal of the month for that one. Was it last game or the game before?
The Melbourne City one, and I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. It must be goal of the week. I think it is actually goal of the week. I really do. I think they come thick and fast with the A-League. I think. Yeah.
Here's a question: how long do you think Chiefy will keep his role from Auckland FC on YouTube?
Yeah, I saw that. It's.
Do they fire them a lot in the A-League? Here's a question for us non-A-Leaguers. Is it kind of like a done thing to fire your manager halfway through a season?
Not as much. Not as much, because several factors, like financially, that is one. Like teams don't have any money at all, so the thought of having to pay someone out, they tend to not unless it's absolutely dire. Coaches have been fired in the past, but it's generally coaching changes only happen when, like Patrick Isnorbo at Victory this year, actually, basically found a better job and left as the head coach, so they had to make a coaching change. With Chiefy, I think he's at the point where he deserves to be able to turn it around. Off the back of what he achieved last season, he got them to within one game of the finals.
Yeah.
Wellington, for all their faults this season, I think there's some green shoots there. They've just been very unlucky with injuries. I think give him the chance to be able to turn it around. And I mean, like the other, going back to the financial side of things, it's if you do fire a coach, you have to bring someone else in. So one, are the coaches locally good enough? Two, can you afford to bring in an overseas coach and start that whole process again? It's a hard one. And the fact that there's no promotion relegation yet or anything like that, there's no kind of extra incentive for if results are going bad, then you need to make a change, that sort of thing. Yeah.
There's not that panic that other leagues will experience, definitely.
My point's going to be just how fickle the game of football is, because when I knew Auckland were coming in, I tried to watch a bit of the last season and towards the end, and I think I found myself probably watching more Phoenix games than any other, just because of the proximity of it. And I just thought, with the players that he had, with the job that he was doing, I actually thought, is this going to be? Does he go on to bigger and better things? Does he end up going to a club that's probably going to offer him a little bit more, a bit more finance? I say finance because there's a cap, isn't there? But move into somewhere that's going to give him a bit more of an opportunity to push forward. But then, like I said, it just shows how fickle the game is. You turn into next season, things start to go a bit whatever. So I think my point really says. No, I think my point really says that if he's done what he's done before, then I think he deserves to at least see the season out and go from there. Yeah.
And the other thing is, he's not necessarily that kind of seemingly from what he's publicly said, and I know people who know him personally. He's not that kind of character who will cut and run anyway. Like not necessarily the point where a better opportunity will come along and he's just going to go, yeah, see you later. He said he wants to kind of build something at Wellington. And he wants to show a bit of faith to them, since they gave him his opportunity as a head coach. This is his first role as a head coach.
Oh, okay. Well,
so he wants to kind of build a legacy, and whether that's 2-3 more years, or even if it's just one more. But he won't cut and run, basically. So he doesn't strike me as that kind of character anyway.
Yeah.
But I would love to be able to see. I'd love to see him just given the chance to. Forge something, build something.
I think he deserves it. Yeah. I think he's been pretty hard done by this season, hasn't he, with what he's had? So
yeah, for sure. The amount of turnover that the play, like he's lost his best players and he's had to rebuild again.
Yeah,
that's always hard.
Lost his best goalie.
For one.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, that'd be awful.
What is it like for those clubs when they drop out of playoff contention? There's no relegation, because we've got another couple of months of the season to go. Like, do the crowds drop off generally and people sort of lose a bit of interest, or? You get your hardcore, I guess, that'll always go.
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on how the team itself approaches it. Like, if a team starts just going, all right, we're going to play kids from here on in, sometimes that actually lends itself to better crowds because the fans want to see locals. Like, I'll use Newcastle and Perth as an example. When they see local Newcastle products or local Western Australian kids come through, it's something for them to latch on, rather than the imports and, the veterans that just kind of journeymen. They see their academy kids come through. They can go, all right, he's one of us. We're going to back him. And sometimes that, that can be effective. It's the A-League situation. I think it's, if teams aren't in the finals, they just turn into spoilers, basically. They want to try and ruin it for either their direct rivals or,
Yeah.
And basically, because they're in the shop window, the players themselves, they need to keep performing to pick up another A-League contract. So it's in their best interest to still, have a crack.
Yeah. There's always these teams back in the UK, like in the Championship, it's like your Swansea and your Preston and your Bristol City. They're just in constant purgatory. Like they're not good enough to get out through the top, but they're not bad enough to go out the bottom. So they're just constantly ticking over between. It's
a lifestyle of up and down for those.
Yeah, it's like between 10. They're no better than 10, but they're no worse than 15, and they're just constantly just ticking over. And it's just like I thought one guy was quite funny on his podcast. He's like, yeah, okay, Birmingham City can get relegated, but at least they've got something to try and get out of. At least they've got some kind of there's a bit of jeopardy towards the end of the season. We just seem to be going through the motion every season. It's like Groundhog Day every season.
Well, that leads us nicely into the connotations for this season at this point. So we've got 9 points. So
you're breaking up, mate.
Yeah.
It's a very thoughtful look from Dale at the moment.
It is. I think
maybe is it those new trees? Are they affecting the local Wi-Fi?
Yeah. I think it's the 39 points. I think this is the point.
Yeah.
I think we can pretty much say we've made it. And oh, he's coming.
Definitely playoffs, but we're.
Oh no!
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone. What do we do? We lost now. We've lost the main.
We've lost the captain. He's gone.
We've lost Sakai. What do we do?
He's gone. Oh yeah.
You're looking at me. I'm looking at you. Do we move? Do we push forward as a 4, or do we drop? Do we sweep back, or do we change over? But that I think what Dale's going to say is that basically we've made it to the point where we've 39 points with.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, Dale. I was going to try and.
Can you?
We've just taken over.
Oh, thank you. I could kind of hear you. 39 points. So we're there in the playoffs. Is that where we left it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I think that's. I know from this side of the Tasman, that's kind of most of the experts that I'm lucky enough to work with. They've kind of all but conceded. Certainly we'll know by this weekend with the Adelaide game. If they beat Adelaide, that becomes an 11-point gap. It'll probably end up the weekend will be being at least a 10-point gap. And with massive. nine games remaining.
Yeah, with 9.
Yeah, that's a hell of a gap. So most people on this side are kind of saying this is Auckland's premiership to lose.
Yeah.
It's a great position to be in.
Is that Auckland or Dale? Dale's kind of just in almost he's going to release a dart. Looks like he's at the hockey ready to.
Like that. Yeah, the Sean Bean meme. One simply does not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one does not simply to start a team. And
technical issues, but techno notice.
We're doing quite well over
13 viewers, incredibly.
We're just chatting, Matt and I. It's a good chat.
Yeah.
Do I disappear and come back? Is that what's happening with me?
That's what's happened. Yeah. Yeah, you were James Madison.
Yeah, you were James Madison. Yeah, that's right.
Where's Matt gone now? Is he here? This is bizarre.
Oh, it's all falling apart on Dale's end. We're still here.
You know. Yeah.
I like teach.
It is my
teachers
end.
out the
It is
class.
my
Let's
end.
go
I know
crazy.
this is my end. I tell you what's really weird. Can you guys hear me?
No, you're good now. You're good now.
Yes.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Really weird. I tell you what's really weird for me, right? Is that I didn't sleep a wink last night. So I'm on like 36 hours of sleep. Bizarrely, I went to Wellington of all places.
So this isn't real. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Stayed in a hotel and I did not sleep a wink because I didn't take my favorite pillow and my favorite sheet. I forgot all my things.
Yeah.
And I had to go with the hotel things.
Earplugs. I always forget to sleep with earplugs. If I can't get my earplugs, I'm at it.
I was just wired, man. So I bought myself a Thai Red Bull. Have you guys? I mean, Matt, you've had this.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I haven't. I'm not brave enough to try that.
It's like rocket fuel.
Yeah, I mean, old Samson will know about this if he's still watching Thailand.
Yeah, Samson, you're in. I think
he's commented on the YouTube. Teachers out of the class, let's go crazy.
Yeah, he can hit us. He can hit us with exactly what you're putting into your body probably right now. Is it the amount of sugar and the amount of?
It's like a Red Bull tincture, you know. It's kind of like it just injects the Red Bull into your veins without all the fizz and all the water.
Yeah,
it's just the Red Bull, you know,
the good stuff.
Liquid Red Bull. Yeah,
this is black market tiger's blood or something.
Yeah, it's direct from the bottle.
20 baht, 20
baht a bottle.
Oh yes. Let's go.
Oh,
to be fair, in West Auckland, they're not much more expensive. I think I only paid about $2.50 for this.
Yeah, right.
Not too bad.
Pretty good considering this.
Dale's off chops here.
Yeah, this is it.
This is the most viewers we've ever had. We should just completely not know what we're doing again.
I feel like this is just an overflow of the live show. It's just kind of manifested.
I've still got heat stroke from the live show, I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I was buzzing.
Oh gosh,
I was tired, but also wired. Yeah.
But so I got up after my night of no sleep last night, and I watched Spurs straight off the bat of being awake.
Oh. Yeah.
Night, and it was like, this is horrible. It's horrible. I had to have the sound down. I just knew we were going to lose. Rubbish.
Yeah. Well, you were losing when I saw. Did you lose in the end?
Yeah, we lost.
Yeah.
Should have scored at the end too, just quietly.
Yeah.
That's right.
That. I missed it.
Anyway, we were talking about the connotations. So I'm interested in these preliminary. How do we say it? The prelim rounds.
Yes.
Prelim rounds.
Yeah.
Goodness me. The prelim rounds, and I did say maybe we shouldn't do it tonight. The prelim rounds, and so we have third versus sixth, fourth versus fifth in the prelim rounds, right?
So how it works: top six, 1 and 2 get the first week off.
That's right.
3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 in the elimination finals.
Elimination finals, yeah. Okay.
And then the 2 winners go through, play 1 and 2. That's the semi-final.
And we're
2 legs.
And it's 2. Just stop there. Why is it 2 legs? And what are the rules? Like, do away goals count double?
Oh, no. Away goals rule. No, not a thing. I think they made it 2 legs, 1 to give both clubs a fairer crack, basically. So you can play in front of your home crowds, you know. As far as I know, that's one of the reasons behind it. 2, I think they just love extending finals anyway, series. So just give it more.
Yeah, it goes on right through May. I saw pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Just looking at a penciled in schedule for us. Yeah,
and so technically we may only see Auckland at home in the last 2 weeks of the finals, because if we finish top, we're likely to be away first in the semi-final. Is that right?
Yes.
The highest rank goes away first.
Away first, yes.
Yeah. And the idea being you have more of a well, is it better to go away first? I mean,
yeah, I was just thinking that when you do the the playoffs back in the UK league, and I'm sure the that finishes higher than the other. So like if three plays 6 or 4 plays 5, I'm sure the team that finishes higher goes away first. Yeah, I'm sure that's the case because it gives you a bit of advantage because it knows what you've got to do, and you've got more chance of probably doing it if you're at home. So I guess that's
correct.
What it is. Yeah.
Slightly different circumstance, but I think back to the Bahrain World Cup qualifiers, the first leg was away.
Yeah.
That was 0-0. So to Matt's point, we New Zealand knew exactly what we needed to do was basically just win, score a goal and win.
Yeah, get that one.
But I get. Well, that's why I think away goals was quite good because it made teams who were playing away in that first leg not go away and just sharp shot. So, do we get that a bit in these A-League playoffs? Do away teams go away and try and get that draw generally, or is it two cup finals? Is it so sharp the end of the season?
I think I'm sure there's been occasions like that where teams will just travel away and then kind of park the bus. But for the most part, off the top of my head, I think teams will just go and have a crack anyway because if you go away, get a great result. You still know what you need to do at home. So it gives you an advantage. One, you get the advantage of getting a result away from home. 2, you get the second advantage of playing at home in front of your fans, to get you into the grand final, basically. So, to me, the points are relevant a little bit. You just go and play. You go and play to win. And the fact that you have 2 cracks at it.
Yeah, I think the away goals as well. I mean, if you can believe it, I remember talking to somebody in a pub back in England who didn't understand football, basically. I know that's hard to believe that somebody that lives in England that doesn't understand football, but
I've met him.
I met him, yeah. I just remember explaining the away goal rule. And he's like, yeah, but they've lost because away goals count as 2. But you're like, yeah, but they only count when you're level. That's only when it comes in. It's like
that's right. It doesn't always. They're not always double. It's not
It's not worth double unless.
It's like but it's 3-2. Double the 2. It's 4. 4-3. They've won 4-3. What are you talking about? I'm like, this is. I know what you're saying. I can hear what you're saying. I can get your logic, but it's.
That's not how it is.
It's not how it works.
Have they done away with away goals in the European? Champions League. Has that been gone for a while?
Yeah, they're just doing people's head in. Yeah.
No, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind the away goal. All right. Okay. So also tonight we have got an interview I did with Luke Casserly last week, who's the newest. He's the new reserve coach at Auckland, but also the assistant manager, assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches. He's fully linked between the reserves, and we've talked a little bit about this. We talked about the academy. What an academy is going to look like, where Auckland FC are going to get their players from in New Zealand. So his appointment was a few weeks ago. I've got a wee interview now, which we are going to play out. So let's have a listen. And you've obviously only arrived in these shores very recently, but have you spent much time over here in New Zealand before, or is this the sort of first spell being over here and living over here?
No, first decent spell. So, way back in the day, I came across as a player to play against the old Auckland Kings. And then when I was working with our national teams, the Australian national teams, I came across, a couple of times then, but they were like 1 or 2 day stints. And so, apart from a enjoyable friend's 50th birthday long weekend in Queenstown, I haven't spent too much time in New Zealand before.
All right. A lot of Australians, they come here and they stay. They don't think they're going to, but they do in the end. Maybe that'll happen to you.
Well, it's been good so far. And, if the weather keeps up like this, I'll be staying for sure.
Yeah, don't get used to that. So just let me know, Luke, what is it that really sort of attracted you to this role, and what are you excited most about this opportunity?
Look, there was loads of things. I'd had since I left the Football Federation, I had quite a few opportunities at different times, and there's a few things. Obviously, a lot of things in life come down to timing, but if I was offered the same role at a number of other clubs in the A-League, I probably wouldn't have gone for it. But what really attracted me here was the 3 key things really, was the structure of the club. So the ownership model, and the structure of the club, the opportunities to learn from the extended network within the broader club with Bournemouth and the likes involved. Of course, there were the people. So I've known Steve Corica for a long time. We go way back in our playing days. I've worked with Terry McFlynn. Obviously, he was in Clubland while I was with the national teams and had to work closely with the clubs and work closely with Terry there. So got to know him quite well and how he operates and obviously the person that he is. Doug Cause, also that's here. I worked with our national teams back in Australia. So felt really comfortable with the crew that were here. And then I also just think, and obviously seen how the club has gone to date, the engagement here, but also there's a massive opportunity to start something new with the development centre and the under-21 team. And I've seen over the last few years, through the junior national team programs, the quality of players that have been developed here in New Zealand. And to be a part of that and work with the young players here and provide them an opportunity to become professional footballers was, all of those things kind of combined, made this one that as soon as they spoke to me, I didn't want to miss out on.
So what is your kind of vision for the reserve team, the academy, the young players in this country? If you could sort of sum it up, what's the vision for that?
Well, really simple is we want to provide as many opportunities as we can to the most talented young players here, and we want to have as many of those players become professionals, ideally for Auckland FC, but we understand that that may also end up being elsewhere. But if we can play a part in that and get as many of these talented young players to become professional footballers is really the number one thing.
And what are the key attributes you're sort of looking for in young players to bring them through the system then?
Look, there's loads of things. We always talk about sort of the key elements, the physical, the technical, the tactical, and then the personality. So they're sort of things that you kind of always look at, but when you're talking about young players, they're never fully developed in any of those areas. So one thing that I know for certain is, we see always over the years, the most talented players at 12, 13, 14 years of age aren't necessarily the ones that go on to reach the greatest heights. Certainly, you have to have a certain level of competence, but I've seen so many players that may not have been the best player in those age groups when they were younger, but with a fantastic attitude, commitment, willingness to learn, discipline, all of those kind of things have ended up carving out really good careers for themselves, kind of over players that were probably, arguably more talented.
Yeah. And kind of New Zealand has produced really good footballers down the years, but most of them have had to go overseas from a very early age. I mean, we've looked at this current crop in the All Whites. Chris Wood's a great example, went overseas really young. We spoke to Tommy Smith, a few weeks back, the same deal. Do you see now there's going to be this opportunity for young kids who are just shine at a young age to stay here, and you're going to be a big role in that with your sides and your academy side?
In Australia, it was similar for years. Like the professional opportunities and the professional environment wasn't provided in Australia, so you had to leave early and get overseas and get to Europe to be in a professional environment. Now, with Auckland and Wellington in the league here, there's professional environments available here for talented New Zealand players. We found over the years that players that establish themselves first in the A-League, get up towards 100 games in the A-League first and then go abroad, tend to have a longer career abroad. We've seen plenty of them go really young, not really get any minutes, maybe get bounced around a bit, come back, get minutes in the A-League and go again. So certainly think that being in the professional environment here, establishing yourself in the A-League is a much better platform to go abroad, go over as a first-team contracted player and to be able to get minutes in Europe.
Bags of experience, before you even go.
Yeah, and look, and a big part of that will also be, being part of the junior national team programs, going to under 17 and under 20 World Cups and performing there as well. So again, that's certainly part of what we want to do. We want to get as many of these young players at Auckland FC, representing the New Zealand national team, under 20s later this year at the World Cup.
And how's it actually going to work on a granular level, Luke? Like, are you working with like the Northern and National League academies and coaches? Is it kind of like is it going to be an unwritten rule that if you've got a good player, give us a shout, Auckland FC? Are there going to be trials? I mean,
I've been here a week. Doug Cors has been working closely with a lot of the clubs and the federation and everything else. And today, everyone has just been super welcoming, super helpful, and a little bit different to some of the stuff I've experienced back in Australia, where people really encouraging players to go from their club and progress and come into Auckland FC. We have a meeting tomorrow around the development centre. So we've got a first sort of activity with the development centre next Wednesday. So Brian Shelley will kind of be one of the main people overlooking that. So he's my assistant coach with the under 21s as well. But basically the starting point for the development centre and the academy is all on recommendations from clubs, club technical staff on, who they think are the right players in the age groups to come and join in. So basically the starting point of the development centre will be, that players train with their clubs, and the nominated players will get additional training sessions with us, and then go back to their clubs and play with their clubs on the weekend.
Right, cool. So that's when they're at a very young age. And then once you're kind of like in this reserve team at Auckland, and you say you get up to the first team, is that the idea that you're talking all the time with Steve, and there's sort of the first team and this reserve team are sort of working as a fluid transition, and also if there's players in the first team who are struggling a bit, and one name that comes to mind is someone like Liam Gillian this season, would there be an opportunity for a player like him to drop down and like have another season in the reserves? Is that how it's going to work?
Well, there's an age restriction on the reserves, so if they're age eligible, they can come down and play in the competition. Obviously we've got some pre-season friendly games coming up for the reserves, and so there will be an opportunity for A-League players who aren't getting minutes to come and get minutes in those practice games that we have, so that they're topped up and ready to go if they're needed, an opportunity for them to play in the first team.
Yeah, but your ambition would be to have players ready to go in the A-League to get them to that level.
Absolutely.
And is it kind of, we know Steve's got a style, a playing philosophy. Is the idea that's going to be installed, that philosophy, right down at the academy level? Tell us a bit about that.
Absolutely. It makes no sense that everything that we do has to be vertically integrated. It makes no sense to develop players to play a certain way in the juniors if our senior team doesn't play that way. It just makes no sense. So, again, been here only a few days, but there's been a lot of work done on, our philosophy and our playing style. But basically, if you, I've already spoken to the boys in the reserve grade team. If you want a reference point on our style of play, how we play, what's expected from you from the individual position that you play, just look at our first team. Yeah,
and the idea is if you're left wing, you look at how the winger plays, right? And you want to sort of replicate that. Although we don't want players to be robotic. I guess you're still teaching adaptability in there, eh?
No, you're more talking about, in a lot of that cases, your structures without the ball. But even still, like with the ball, you look at the first team, when we get into the opposition half and we have counter-attack situations and 1v1 situations, the first team players are encouraged to express themselves. And, Guillermo decided that he'll have a strike from 30 yards against Western, and, it paid dividends. So there certainly won't be handcuffs on players in the attacking third, but, always in training and throughout what we do, we're always working on our key principles of play. And then, of course, you have players that have that individual ability and, to break games up. I think those players are becoming more and more important as every team is becoming more well-organised, more disciplined, more structured, more physically capable. then those players who do have the ability to break open defences and break up games, I think are just going to become more and more important in the game, and absolutely we want to encourage that.
Hey, here's a question. Is it just going to be looking at the sort of Auckland region as a catchment area, or is it going to be, further afield in New Zealand and even over to Australia? Would we kind of like have some networks in Australia? Because of course some Kiwis have gone over to the A-Leagues at a young age and joined academies and youth setups over there. Yeah. Is that in any sort of thinking Auckland FC, we might win this A-League this year, and therefore we're a big catch for Aussie's most talented as well? Is that kind of come across your radar, or we're keeping local?
For my space, the under-21s and the development centre, we're only focused on New Zealand players, on Kiwi players. Of course, initially it's the Auckland area and northeast. Not that I've been in, any detailed discussions about we're only in these areas, but obviously the initial focus is around there. But if Wellington Phoenix aren't interested in a talented player, then we'll happily bring them up. We'll happily bring them up here.
Wondering where the boundary is. It's quite a long way between Wellington and Auckland.
Yeah, but in simple terms, from the under-21s and the development centre, the focus is on New Zealand players. We're not looking to bring in players from Australia.
Great. Okay, I just want to talk to you a little bit about your connection with Steve Corica. You understand you roomed together as teenagers when you won the NSL together at Marconi. Is that right? So you guys go back a long way.
Yeah. So Steve grew up in far north Queensland, and from a very young age went into the Australian Institute of Sport program down in Canberra. Myself and Mark Schwarzer, we sort of grew up in the same kind of semi-rural area on the outside of Sydney, and we kind of all came into the first team at Marconi at a similar time at around 17 years of age. And because of where we were from, Marconi actually, camped us in a house together. So the three of us, myself, Steve and Mark Schwarzer, were living together when we were about 17 years of age. And we've just, all three of us have stayed great friends ever since, and always been connected. Obviously, we went on our different paths and lived in different parts of the world and everything else, and went for years where we didn't see each other, but always remained connected. So we've kind of known each other for a while.
And so it was a big pull in taking the job, Steve, for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it was a combination of everything. Like Steve was a big factor, of course, but the other people here as well, Terry, Dougie, and also the structure of the club. If I was to give an example, I've seen another A-League club where they have a very coach-centric model. And I know two guys that I've worked with that have been offered a similar role to this at the club, and they've gone over there on a full-time contract or gone to that club, but then the head coach changed, and the head coach makes the decisions on everything all the way down through the academy. So their role there didn't last 6 months, and new coach came in and a whole new crew of people came in, and then the same thing happened again. So, having discussions with Terry McFlynn and the likes around, and Nick Kerber around the structure of the club and the setup of the club, then obviously Steve was a massive influence in me coming here, but there was a number of factors. And that's why I'm here.
And just lastly, really, you've not been here long, but what have your first impressions been? I mean, it's kind of almost unusual to come into a team that's doing so well. I imagine, it's not often you join when a team's, the club's 5 points clear. The whole city's gripped by the sporting new thing we've all got. Like, how is it inside the camp?
Probably the two things that have stood out the most is the humility of the group. Really impressive, like just a really good group, a really solid bond within the group, and a really humble group. But the other thing is, the work ethic of the group has been as good as I've ever seen.
And so you're second assistant as well. So you're totally involved in the A-League games from here as well in the matches.
Yeah, so look, it depends on the time of the year. So at the moment, we have nice early training sessions with the young boys, because we have some that still go to school and the like. So I'm up bright and early and at the training session with the under 21s, and then I race across to the A-League training, and I'm involved as the second assistant with the A-League trainings, and then when we play at home, I'll be involved on match day. But when the team travels, I'll be here, obviously coaching the under 21s, and if any of the A-League players aren't in the travelling squad, then they join us for additional top-up training.
Great. And from here, there's a, for the reserves, if you like, there's a bunch of friendlies, and we join the New Zealand League later on in the year, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we have our first competition game in the NRF on the 22nd of March, and we actually have our first practice game this Sunday.
Wow, straight into it. Nice.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Lovely. Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to having you part of the club, Luke, and welcome again to Auckland, and good luck.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everyone here has been super welcoming. So, for me, I've been, in different roles throughout the years. I've spent time on the corporate side of football and in the corporate world. But when you're just working football every day, I'm the happiest man in the world.
That's the dream, right? To get back on the training pitch.
Yeah.
Lovely. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Has the best job in the world. He's probably right. Hey, getting out there, playing football, coaching football. Still what I want. It was what I wanted to do, and then I realised I wasn't going to be good enough. And then I wanted to be a commentator like Robbie is now.
Yeah.
And then
that's what I was going to say. I think I have the best job in the world sometimes.
You're right up there. Yeah. I somehow fell into news instead of sport as a career, which was kind of annoying looking back at it. Hey, I'm making up for lost time now.
Yeah, you're in there. That's right. Part of the rich tapestry.
That's right. What do we think about Luke anyway? Robbie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, like impressive character. Like I hadn't I'd known about him, but didn't know too much about what kind of makes him tick. But by all accounts, and from a couple of local NPL commentators that I've chatted to, nothing but great things to say about him as a person as well as a coach. He's got the runs on the board. Like he finished his playing career in 2010 locally. Excuse me. Took up coaching straight away, and within 2 years took Marconi to a title. So back in 2012, and that was the first time in nearly 40 years. Since then, kind of moved around, worked with Football Australia, like he said. And I think he even said as well that he was part of bringing Ange to the Socceroos head coaching job as well. So he's got an eye for it.
He did do that. Yeah, we spoke after the button stopped. He found out I was a Spurs fan. I was like, yes, I was very impressed with that. He's right at the heart of it for a long time. Yeah.
And then most recently, working at Hills United here in Sydney, took them to promotion in 2023 from the second division, and that was a year after they finished last. So he can coach, and the fact that he's got such a great youth focus as well, I think augurs very well for Auckland FC. Like that's one of his key strengths, is developing young players. So I think we've got a really good coach on our hands, working on that next tier of players coming through.
Steve Corrigan's kind of putting the old band back together bit by bit.
A little bit.
His old connection with Terry McFlynn on earlier in the year.
Yeah, that's right.
But I guess that's
sorry. The one last important point that those NPL commentators said: he loves a beer, loves a chat, loves a beer.
Oh, there you go.
As did I last Saturday. As did I, and I still feel like I'm suffering, but that's okay. That's okay. Matthew, reflections on Luke?
Yeah, I thought quite an interesting point was the making sure that if players are going to move to a different league, Northern Hemisphere, that 100 A-League appearances, try and make sure they play 100 A-Leagues. Because I watched a little kind of promo thing on Chris Wood and about his journey from, it was people being interviewed about how he had, where he played and people that had coached him and how he'd made it, and how he was just saying that really it was very similar to to get his name there. But you go over to the UK for kind of like your apprentice. You rock up there as like a 16-year-old or whatever, 17-year-old as a youth player, and it's kind of just almost like a sink and swim kind of thing. And I could see Chris Wood kind of, even though he was saying about how great it was, you could tell by the tone of his voice how difficult it was. He went to a decent team, and then he went
West Brom. We're real young.
I think Chris Wood, was West Brom,
yeah.
But then he went on loan.
Around the time of the World Cup, I think, or the qualifier, 09, I think he was at West Brom. I remember at the time.
But he had to go on loan to a lesser club and lower club, and just you could tell from his story that it was difficult. You had to learn. You had to look after yourself and try and integrate yourself. So I think even though Chris Wood is a success story, and there's probably going to be others like that, he could clearly see in his thing that he was just a fantastic player. He was always going to be up there. He excelled in every single age category that he played. So I think for other players that may not be able to just have that, it sounds like that 100 A-League appearances is just going to put them in in better stead.
Yeah, and that's generally like most recent over the past decade or so. That's kind of been generally the point. Like Luke mentioned, you've seen a couple of times a player bursts onto the scene, to quote Micah Richards. Burst onto the scene, have one good year, go overseas, but then just kind of tread water, bounce around a few times, and then end up back in the A-League. You think of a Daniel Arzani, Marco Tilio, moved to Celtic off the back of a great season, but injuries and didn't really get in the minutes there. So if you play 100 games in the A-League, that's 3 seasons. 3 solid seasons. That's it. So if you can be a regular starter across 3 seasons of the A-League, that puts you in such a good stead. And I said it like ages ago on the pod here with Alex Paulson. I would love to see him stay in the A-League for at least this season, maybe one more.
Maybe next year as well, you reckon?
Maybe next year as well. But like if he puts, so he was goalkeeper of the season last season. If he takes out the award again this season, that's 2 solid seasons. I think that's okay for him to launch off. If he has one more and then a third good season, a team's going to look at him and go, "What? Geez, he has to be a starter for us." So that's why I want to see if there's a really good young player, build up the minutes here, because you're playing senior first team football. If you can do that week in, week out for what is it now, 29 rounds. And do that for at least 2 seasons. That puts you in such a good stead for Europe. In
35-degree heat as well. I mean, that if you can do that.
Yeah, I think the Alex Paulson's a good point, because this point might go down like a lead balloon, and I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper. I always sing his praises, but I think there's still a few rough edges.
Yeah,
in his
100%
game.
there is.
I still think there's a few little things that he doesn't quite, when he maybe some of the decision making he makes when he comes, like maybe when the ball comes into his box, and when he comes to go, when he goes to go, and he's got an interesting way of kind of like parrying saving the ball, things that look like they would just be. I think you're onto something there. I think another season would do a lot of good.
Yeah. And like another recent example, Hayden Matthews left Sydney, joined Portsmouth, and by all accounts has impressed everybody. And Matthews has only really been around for 2 seasons, but the body of work that he'd put together was enough. So I think maybe he could have done one more season regular, but I mean, at the same time, if you get an opportunity like that, it's bloody hard to say no.
Well, here we go. At this stage, do we think?
That's right. Yeah.
Do we think the Bournemouth will recall Paulson next season, or will we get it? How are we feeling about that at this point?
I think they'd want to have a look at him, like have a real good look at him. If he again, say goes deep into the finals, becomes one of the best 2 or 3 keepers in the league for this season. Bournemouth, I think, would really want to have a proper look at him, bring him into their setup, and then maybe put him out on loan somewhere else.
Pre-season and maybe different spot. I reckon it'll be a different spot. Different club.
I think they're pretty smart, these clubs nowadays. I think if he was going to come back, I think there would already be something lined up that say, I like the idea of you maybe staying close to Bournemouth, so you might be able to go to a Portsmouth or a Southampton or something, something that's kind of close.
Correct.
You can give that a nudge. Yeah.
Correct. Like Joe Gauci with Aston Villa. He's on loan at Burnley now, I think. I could be wrong on that. But he's gotten Barnsley, or it might be Barnsley. Please, someone correct me in the comments if I got that wrong. But he's gotten to move to the Premier League club. Sat on the bench a couple of times, played a few FA Cup games, but now is getting regular minute. Well, he's been injured. He got injured, on the weekend. But he's getting that regular start in a lower tier. I can see a similar kind of path for Alex Paulson. At some point, Bournemouth would want him there in the club and nearby. So I'd see maybe a similar sort of thing.
It's what they often do. Yeah, it's a good. Yeah.
Talking of great goalkeepers, Mark Schwarzer getting a 17-year-old.
That's a solid name drop.
Yeah,
that's a big name drop. Yeah,
and Luke living there together. Started off at Marconi. Heard a lot about Marconi. Played 366 games for Middlesbrough, 172 for Fulham, 4 for Chelsea, 6 for Leicester. He had a big career up there in the end.
It's a good career, and the other thing to keep in mind as well with a goalkeeper, you can play until you're 40, so he's got time. He doesn't need to rush his move. Yeah.
He's a good goalkeeper.
He was a good player. And the other thing I picked up was Luke mentioned. He's noticed how different it is from Australia already in terms of how the local clubs are really all in on this A-League team. You know, like they're keen on having their players go. I got a sense from that. There's not so much keenness. And we've talked a little bit about this before in Australia, and so Luke sort of mentioned that. So it's interesting to hear that it's different here.
There's a lot of politics behind the scenes.
Yeah, we won't get into it, Robbie. We won't get into it.
That's an episode in itself, probably.
It's a whole
other podcast, really.
Yeah, it's a whole podcast.
It's not for Matt and I, probably, that one.
No, it's straight.
It's like for example, in our group chat for open the curtains, Matt asked a question about it, and my answer was like,
it was.
Going.
Yeah, it's like
it's too long. Can't read it.
Yeah, no, but you make a good point. It theoretically it makes sense, but the practical putting it together is extremely hard. Yeah, you've got to take the political side and the whatever. Yeah,
but it sounds like we're in the right direction here, though. It sounds like there's no
absolutely.
Which is great.
Particularly having a successful franchise at the moment with Auckland FC, I think clubs are kind of seeing that and going, all right, there might be something in it for us. So let's go in and see where it takes us.
Absolutely. All right. We're getting towards the end. Adelaide at home this weekend. I've just remembered I'm going to the game with my girls, so it'd be a much different weekend than the last weekend.
Yeah, it will.
Lemonade.
A shorter spell out of the house, I would say. You know. Last weekend was out of the house a long time. Yeah. Adelaide at home. Now the last game was the draw, the last minute.
The 2-2. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
A good game.
It was a good game. Yeah. It was a good game.
Yeah. And since then Adelaide's kind of hit a bit of a speed bump. At the moment they've got 4 players with the Australian under-20s and that team's just made the Asian Cup final. And they're 4 starters as well. They've relied on their kids a lot this season, and it's carried them pretty well so far. But they're coming off the back of 2 straight losses. They've lost. Well, actually, really, they've only won once in their past 5 games. So their form's not great. I think for Auckland, it's a very good time to get the team that's sitting second on the ladder.
Yeah.
So
knock them off. Knock them off.
Yeah, 100%. Adelaide's just been struggling a little bit. Based again on form line, it's hard to look past Auckland getting another 3 points here.
We are in such form. Even I might go 4-0 this week.
He's right on.
I'm going to go 4-0 straight off the bat.
Are you going? Yeah.
Yeah, 4-0. I think that, like you said, Auckland FC are in such great form. They look like the ball's glued to their feet when they're attacking. You know, they're hungry. They are on a. I think you mentioned they're on a roll. I mean, when a football team gets on a roll, momentum, it means so much because the mental side of the game is easy. You know, it's all beer and skittles, and Auckland FC are going to win the A-League at the moment. It feels.
That's it.
Yeah, it's hard to see who can really stop this. Stop this form. The way Adelaide are travelling, It'd be very long odds, I think. Draw would be a very good result for them, but even then, it's Auckland should beat them and beat them fairly comfortably.
Jeez, that's 1v2 as well. Like usually when you get a top of the league clash, you kind of think, this is where, does one get pulled back, or is this when the gap starts to?
Are we 9? Are we 9? Are we 9 clear? Yeah, so we'll be 12 if we win.
It's crazy.
8 points clear.
We're 8 at the moment, so we'll be 11.
They're second in the league, and we're just looking at it like, it's just going to be. But I think you're right. I think it is going to be.
But in saying that, it's very much an anomaly because Auckland are so far ahead, but then the rest of the final spots, 2nd to 6th, there's one win separating them.
Yeah, so it's actually exciting.
Yeah.
And for us, I guess you don't want to win the league by 10 points. What do you win the Premier? What do you call it? Winning the Premier if you actually win the league, right? And then get beat in the playoffs would be awful, eh?
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Who has won it by the most? What's been the biggest gap?
I started looking that up this week. I think I got as far as Melbourne City a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, what was that?
Or at least even by this point, I think they were 10 points clear at a similar stage. So I wanted to do a bit more research behind that, but I think there's been a couple of times.
So Auckland could break the record. They could win the league by
potentially
points. Yeah,
they
beat
potentially
Adelaide.
Another record.
Yeah. Jeez,
another record. Yeah,
this is the most bizarre thing I've ever been part of in my life, and winning this many games in sport.
I feel like it's just all gonna.
I've never ever been involved with anything that's successful in my life.
I know. It feels weird.
It's very odd.
What am I doing? Yeah,
too good to be true, huh?
Is this what success feels like? Is this how it goes? Is this what it was like to be a Man U supporter in the early 2000s?
Must have been. It feels very light.
That was a good time. It was a very good time, I'll be honest.
It doesn't matter who we're playing. Who cares? We're going to win.
Yeah, it's another win. Yeah. But I guess the thing, speaking as a United fan, even with that period, like I was only a teenager, and because I was so far removed from that, you're not really a part of it. You're just kind of you're there as a bit of a bandwagon. Like it's the team I support, but you're supporting from this far. You're not really immersed in it. With this, I'm fully immersed in it. Like this is like I've said to you guys before. This is the first time I've felt this kind of thing with football.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's bloody awesome. I love it.
Is it too early to start the bring Robbie home for the semi-finals campaign?
It's gonna what do you call it? A GoFundMe. It's gonna
go. Please.
Elsewhere, New Zealand or Jetstar. Bridges. Where do you want to stay when you get here? Somewhere nice.
Any correspondence related to that you can direct to my wife.
That's great. Your manager.
Yeah. Your agent. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Correct. No, I'd love to be able to go more, but when the team travels here, I'll do my best to get there and support them that way.
Yeah, there's a Sydney away game coming up in April, isn't it?
April, yes.
End of April. April, beginning of April.
Oh, early-ish. Early-ish April, yeah.
Somewhere in April.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a lot of travelling fans. The call of port, they're calling it, so that'll be exciting. Exciting to get on to that one.
Good idea.
All right, I'm 4-0. Score, Matt. Have you done your score yet?
No, I'm just looking at the right hand side. I'm looking at the comments. I quite like It's like, what am I going with? I think I might go with
your prediction, Matt.
Yeah, you want my prediction, don't you? Yeah. I think I'm going to go. For some reason, 1-0 Auckland.
Oh God, I thought you were going to say 1-1 again.
Yeah, 1-1.
He's dropped that. He's dropped that.
3-1 they score first, but no, I think I'm going to go with 1-0. 1-0. Yeah, 1-0.
A workman like 1-0. Yeah. No, I still feel comfortable 2 or 3. 2 or 3-0.
Yeah.
2 or 3-0.
I feel like it might be a bit like what's the phrase? The day after the Lord Mayor show. It's
right
kind of
after the derby.
Yeah, you've had the big one, and then you kind of, there's that one next.
What does that? What does that expression mean? The day after the Lord Mayor's show? Is it
I
a
think
bit of a
it means
downer?
that you've had a big hurrah. Yeah, the big day. You've had a lot of fun.
There's a big come down, is it?
And then it's a big come down afterwards, and you've got to try and pick yourself up to live the rest of your week or whatever.
Have you been to the Lord Mayor's show? Have you?
I don't even know what that is.
Personal experience.
I'm just labouring.
I heard it because this is a dose of reality. Birmingham were playing Newcastle in the FA Cup, and then the next game was Cambridge United.
Oh, well, that's your day after the Lord Mayor's show, isn't it?
Tell me about going from like the epic to I don't think there's many Cambridge United
to the cow paddock.
Oh yeah, it was like what a come down. So everyone was like, "Oh, you're gonna cop an unfortunate one because you've had a big old day playing those guys, and now you've got to buck your ideas up and go back to the Farmers League and play Cambridge."
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. All right, we'll wrap it up, guys. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Robbie, for coming along. Bit of a low-key show tonight, but I've enjoyed it. I look forward to watching the bit in the middle back.
Yeah,
I disappeared for a while.
I think that was the best bit, Matt. Just you and I.
That was really good. We had all kinds of jokes going on. You were like robot.
Comments were flying. Just shit canning Dale. Yeah.
Oh, come on. Well, we hit a milestone. My Gmail told me we'd had 1,000 downloads on Spotify and Apple Music since we started. So that's we're aiming for the sky. All right. Up the port.
Thanks everyone for the comments too, by the way.
Thanks for the comments.
Helps me a lot.
Helps me out. Enjoy the show. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us a like. Tell your mates. Nice drop of port. We are out. Thanks for watching or listening. Thank you.
Up the port.
Cheers. Up the port.